Hey, it's your girl Go Queen with the Q Chat podcast. Thank you for tuning in to our latest episode. Before we get started, I want to give you some information on how you can grab some Q Chat merchandise. Go to www.goqueen.com and there you can purchase any Q Chat merchandise or any of my Go Love Yourself tees. So go ahead, take a look at the website and feel free to grab some merchandise today. There's something else I want to fill you guys in on. If you haven't heard, Anchor is the hottest and easiest way to make a podcast. It's the best price in the world, free. So go ahead and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And just remember, Anchor distributes your podcast to all streaming platforms. It's super simple. So go ahead and sit back and get ready to listen to the next episode of the Q Chat. But don't forget, go to www.goqueen.com and grab some merchandise. Thank you for tuning in and get ready to listen in. Go Queen! Are you looking for organic grown CBD products? Well, check out Essentially Yours CBD Spot. The Essentially Yours CBD Spot LLC offers organically grown CBD products. Their passion is to help you become a healthier you naturally, non-GMO, gluten-free, and vegan-friendly. So go to www.essentiallyyourcbdspot.com. Hey, so we're recording a new episode of the Q Chat, and today I have a wonderful young woman. Her name is Angela Goodlow Solomon, and she is the Millionaire Motherpreneur Mentor. And what Angela does is she teaches mothers how to use what they already know to start online businesses that they can work from home. So how are you doing today, Angela?
I am outstanding. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm doing great. So right now, like I was mentioning to you before we got to recording, this is the most amazing time to be an entrepreneur, in my opinion. And I feel like a lot of people who are starting businesses, that those numbers are multiplying by the day due to the pandemic. So I want to give you the floor to just start off by introducing yourself and giving everyone your background.
Okay. Well, thanks so much on your podcast. I appreciate the invitation, and my passion is showing mothers and women, but especially mothers, because it was really pivotal in my life to be able to have an alternative career to my training as an attorney. When I started having kids, I really wanted to spend more time with them, and as an attorney working 60 plus hours a week, it was just really tough to really be the mother that I wanted to. And so I was able to quit my job. And my husband has a business. He's an entrepreneur, and I worked that business alongside him. And then after a while, I was like, wow, after my kids got a little bigger, I decided that, I wanted to build an empire on my own. It was nice being, helping him build his business, but I knew that I also had a business inside of me, and I had skills and talents that I could monetize. And so that's what I began to do. And it made a world of difference, because I think it's so important for women to have their own business. I believe every woman should have her own business so that she doesn't have to exclusively depend on any boss or job or relationship, any government program, because those things can be taken away from you overnight. I mean, you just don't know. I think it's so important to, maintain control of your own financial situation. And that's really my passion, showing women how to work from home and how to be their own boss using skills and talents that they already have. So it doesn't matter if you have a college degree or not. You all have skills. We all have skills that people need. Solutions that we can provide. And I just believe that having that power to generate your own money, not depending on anybody else, is real important for every woman.
Oh, yes, I definitely agree. Now, just researching your background, so I know you touched on it a little bit, how you were a practicing attorney and you had your children. So what I had read further about you was that in the exact year of 2001 is when you did quit your job as a practicing attorney, as you mentioned, to spend time with your three young sons. But I had read one portion that I found to be interesting. You were saying during that time period, not only did you lose your income, but you lost a little bit of your confidence. Can you get a little detailed on how did you get able to break out of that portion when you didn't have the confidence and when you were able to build that up so you can move forward to start your businesses?
Absolutely. Like I did quit my job in 2001, and at that time I just had one son.
Mm-hmm.
And my goal at that time was just to, quit my job, stay home with him, help my husband build his business. And then when my son went back to school, I would, be able to transition back to work full time. Probably not at the law firm working 60 hours a week, but maybe, just in some area of the law,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a different practice that allowed for a better work family balance. But in the meantime, I had twins. And so I
Mm.
said, all bets are off. So I was just, full-time mom to three little boys under the age of 3. So it was pretty
Wow.
hectic. And at that time, that was fine. I just, decided that that's what that time in my life, that was my 30s. That was the time in my life that's what I was meant to do, was just be a mom to 3 little boys. And it was great. I homeschooled a little bit. But when you're just talking to kids all day and not really having that professional interaction for a long time, it really takes a toll. And also, being an independent woman was so important to me. My mother, like my grandmother's generation, they were homemakers.
Mm-hmm.
They, raised their kids. My grandfather, he worked. She had his meal table at 5 o'clock every day when he got home from work. Like, that was the traditional family model. And so my mother's generation, they were the women's lib, right? So my mother, she divorced my dad, and she went back, became a career mom. I mean,
Wow.
a career person. She was just very focused on her career, so much so that I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, because my mother was so into pursuing her career, which was much different from, my grandmother's generation. So me and my generation, we have a lot of moms who, we went to college, we're professionals, but we want a better balance. We want it all, right? We want the wonderful home life, but we also want to be professionally satisfied, with our careers. And sometimes it's tough to have it all. A lot of times it's tough to have it all. So I tell
Mm-hmm.
people, you may not be able to have it always, but you can have something some of the time. We may not be able to have it all of the time. And so that was in my 30s. That was my time to, really focus on being a mom. But then when I tried to come back from the mommy track, it was really tough, because at that
Mm.
time, my legal skills, I hadn't practiced law in about 10 years. And, employers really don't want to see that kind of gap on your resume. The mom job, even though it's one of the most important jobs in the world,
Right.
sometimes those skills get stale. They don't like to see that kind of employment gap on your resume. And so I knew, and I just for my own flexibility, and just my life, I wanted to build my life around my work, as opposed to, having work to. I'm sorry, I wanted to build work around my life, as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to, having my life just taken by work, and really only enjoying my family on the weekends and on those 10 days of vacation that they try to give you every year. And so it was just really, really tough. And the fact that I wasn't earning my own money anymore after, being an attorney and, making my own money, even after I got my undergraduate degree, I moved to Minneapolis, and I was, living the dream as a recent
Mm-hmm.
college graduate, just managing my own money and my own life. And so to not have any money my own that I was earning anymore, just, really depending on my husband and his income, it was, not that my husband wasn't agreeable to, spending money, but I was used to just not even having to mention, that I wanted to buy this or I wanted to buy that. But when you're sharing a budget with somebody else, you have to kind of say, hey, what do you think about that? And
Right.
I don't like that, because I feel like, as a grown woman, you should be able
Mm-hmm.
to, have your own money, even though you share. I always tell him, his money is mine and his, but I have money that's also mine. And so
Right.
women, just for our own safety, because there are a lot of women who wind up in dangerous situations, abusive situations, when they don't have that financial control. A lot of women have to
Mm-hmm.
stay in relationships because they're not financially able to take care of themselves and their families. A lot of people have jobs that they hate, and that they're not getting paid even a fraction of what they're worth because they need that job. And so I'm always an advocate of having that side hustle that can eventually turn into a plan A from a plan B so that you could just maintain control of your life. So not having that control, that financial control of my life, being out of the professional world and, talking with my kids for 10 years, I mean, it really, really played on your self-esteem. And at that time, at home, even though you're not in the professional world, you really are still, having project management skills. You're, having, scheduling skills. You're wearing, 10 hats: driver, cook, manager, boss, negotiator, mediator. I mean, you're still using all these skills in the context of your home, but you're not using them in the professional world. So that kind of played on my confidence. It played on my self-esteem. I was wondering, how do I, transition back from this mommy track into, a well-respected professional after being out so long. And so that was just, really, really a challenge for me. I had so many skills, but I did not know which one. These skills is something that I could use to build my business, because I could do so many different things and I love to do so many different things. And so I just, it was just a struggle of having that business clarity. And so that's what I find in a lot of the mothers that I work with is that, after being out of the workforce, so you could do so much,
Right.
but what is the and then if you come
Mm-hmm.
out and you say first you're going to be this part, I'm this. I'm doing, multi-level marketing. I'm doing, resumes. You're doing 50 different things, and people are
Right.
confused. And
Mm-hmm.
so people don't really take you seriously because you haven't committed to one thing. So, it's just really important to try to hone in on, what is your profitable passion? What is your sellable skill
Mm.
that you really want to stick with, and you really feel like you can provide a solution and add value to the world with. And so that's really what I focus my business around, just really helping mothers and women monetize that sellable skill so that they
Now,
can have a side hustle and that can turn into some financial stability for themselves.
Now, you said a ton of gems just now. I'm trying to figure out which one I want to grab first. So, number one, I love how you mentioned just about, women being financially, independent. I was raised in a traditional upbringing. My mom stayed home, my dad made all the money, that was it. And actually, it kind of oozed into my adulthood. When I became married, I kept thinking I had to be in that traditional role too, where the spouse made the money and you stayed home with the children. But just like you mentioned, that causes some problems, like if you don't have a particular type of marriage and then you're in a situation where you're dependent upon another person for finances, number one. And another good point that you made, I think a lot of people don't realize what abusive relationships too. That's sometimes the only reason the women sometimes are whoever is on the receiving end of the dysfunction. They have to stay in these toxic relationships because they literally can't afford to leave. I mean, I think a lot of times people talk about the whole some couples are together for money. I mean, unfortunately, because neither one of them can really depend on leaving without the other financially. So I'm glad that you brought up that point. So just barreling back on just being independent. So I just love what you mentioned. So I think it is important, like I said, for just people in general. I'll even take the woman part out of it. Just individuals in general should be financially independent. You never know what could happen to that job. And another good point you mentioned, I was in that situation. I know plenty of people now, they're at jobs that they absolutely despise, but they're not going to leave because, number one, they don't realize that they do have other skills that could probably make way more than what they're making anyway. That's another conversation because I've had it with people a lot. But on the flip side, because as you mentioned, they're afraid that they can't survive without that job, even though they're being underpaid, they're unhappy, and they're miserable. So you and I discussed, just the stage that you were at, when you became a mother and you started working from home. And I know you mentioned that your husband also has a business. So take me to just now, what does he do? I know like you guys have both, and that's one thing I forgot to mention previously. Both of you guys have been featured 6 times in different magazines. The Success from Home magazine and also Washington Life magazine. So just take me back to what type of business does he have? And then when did you get to the point where you're very independent, where you decided, hey, I'm going to step out on my own?
Okay, so my husband is in network marketing. He has
Okay.
a telecommunications marketing company for about 25 plus years now. So, and he's been very successful in that. Your second question was, when did I get to the point that
Right. So what was your first business, and like when did you transition from, helping him with his business, and also raising your young children? So when did you transition to having your first business? Like what was that
okay.
process?
Okay, so great. So my first business, while I was still working at the law firm,
Okay.
my husband encouraged me to look into real estate. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, I really feel like, real estate is a great way to build wealth, and we really need to look into it. And so, while I was still working at the law firm with my, one son who was about 9 months old at that time, we started looking into real estate. We started taking real estate courses. We started going to real estate conferences, and so I got my real estate license. And so when I quit my job, I had my real estate broker's license, and we started investing. And it was awesome because so I have a real estate broker's license. So I have a real estate brokerage. So that was my first business. And it was awesome because when we started investing, I actually started making more money from my real estate investments than I was making at my job.
Mm.
And so that was really, really key to when I, came home. So we did that for a couple of years, but then the real estate market crashed in like 2008. And so when that happened, it was just like, wow, it really kind of crushed my confidence in real estate investing because I got stuck with, a property and, lost a lot of money. And I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to be a mom. I'm just going to
Mm-hmm.
focus on my kids. I'm going to be a mom. It's just too stressful and it's too costly, and I'm just going to do that. So it took me a while to get back into that, but now I think that's a key part of what I teach. I teach how to have an online business using skills you already have, but another piece that I teach, which is important, is the real estate piece, because most millionaires have real estate in their. And so
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it would be a disservice not uh, called Flip to Six Figures, where I walk my students through a flip property from start to finish,
Okay.
one that I actually just did. So they can actually see the steps, they can see what I did. And so that is a piece of my academy, the Millionaire Motherpreneur Business Academy. It has that real estate piece in addition to the online business piece because I think they work together.
Okay. Okay. So I know that you said, like you mentioned, you did the real estate thing, and your main thing now is mentorship. So, what inspired you, and exactly when did you start though mentoring to other women? And just, I know based off your experiences, was there anything in particular that just made you think to yourself, well, hey, I've gained this knowledge, and I figured out how to be financially independent on my own and on my own terms. How can I offer this to other women? Was there like a light bulb moment where you said to yourself, maybe I should offer this knowledge to other people?
Well, what happened, I started a meetup group. This meetup platform came on the scene, and it was awesome, right? Just a way to, get people together who had common interests. And so in my area, I started a Be Your Own Boss meetup for women.
Mm-hmm.
And I would do it every month. Would come, a lot of them had the same issues that I had. It was a lot. There were a lot of moms who, were professionals who decided to just focus on their families for a while, and they had been
Mm-hmm.
home, and they would talk about, the loss of self esteem. They would talk about the loss of self confidence, and so I realized it was a common theme. I even had, friends of mine that I went to college with that had the same situation. We found out about this online business model probably back in maybe 2010,
Mm-hmm.
2011. That's when I first took my first, and I had a really good friend of mine who I went to college with. She homeschooled her 5 kids. Her husband, was doing well, and she was able to, be home with her kids because, that's what they both decided. And then, like, just like me, I mean, we had the same struggle, just trying to figure out which of these skills. We know how to do so much. We've been home, we've out of the workforce. And so just talking to her and seeing the women that came to my Be Your Own Boss meetup group, I just saw that there was such a need for, just one-on-one coaching or smaller group coaching, because a lot of these online courses that were out there, I mean, they were kind of like self-study, self-taught, but without that support piece. And also, what I've also found over the years is that there are so many pieces to the puzzle. It's like a huge puzzle, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
so many pieces. You can take online course, this online course, blah, blah, learn this, learn that. But it's hard to put it all together without
Mm-hmm.
small group or individual support. And so to meet that need and to help more women be successful, because I see also a lot of people that just give up because they can't figure it out. You see so many people, succeeding online and saying that they, are doing this, but you can't seem to make it happen for yourself because first of all, you don't have clarity, right? You don't know
Mm-hmm.
how to get online. And a lot of us at my age are maybe not as tech savvy as we need to. Some of
Mm-hmm.
us have a hard time even, with social media. And so
Right.
that can also be a challenge, that we have not kept up with the times and are not able to pivot online because we are of the just the brain drain that it's going to take to really get our tech skills up to that level. And so just understanding that is where I try to meet my clients, is just trying to walk them slowly the easiest way to get their business online. The first part of my Motherpreneur Business Academy is really just taking that skill and starting going from start to scale, just walking them through how to set up their website, walking them through how to, get that first client. And, we just start from there.
Okay. Now, one thing that I loved on your website, so you have this piece where you mentioned why I want you to be a millionaire motherpreneur. And you wrote, as you mentioned earlier, how you believe every woman needs to be able to make money no matter what happens with any job, relationship, or as you mentioned, our government benefits. And you said, as a grown woman, you should be in complete control of your life. Whether it be a day off or a nice meal or even a new outfit or your dream car, you need to get what you want when you want it and not feel guilty about it. So I just feel like number one, that empowers people because I think sometimes it's just what we think, it's our thought process that holds us back, and there's fear. I think everyone has a level of fear, whether we like to admit it or not. But diving out and being an entrepreneur and taking control of how you earn money, it is scary for some people, and some people are accustomed, as you mentioned, they're relying on government benefits, our relationship, our job that a lot of times they don't like, but it's still like that level of security mentally. So I think it's a lot where you're just afraid to move on. So with your background and your skills, what's the first starting point you would think for, like, okay, so let's say you had a mom in front of you right now. She's at a job she really doesn't really care for. She's trying to make ends meet and she's ready to move on and start her own business. So what would be like your first starting point? Like if you had this mother, right in your hands, like what would be your first starting point on like where she should begin on starting that journey to be an entrepreneur?
Well, that's funny that you first mentioned, the fear. So what we always start with is confidence and mindset,
Mm-hmm.
because that is the beginning of everything. You win and you lose with your mindset. And
Mm-hmm.
so I actually am writing a book right now. It's almost finished. It's called Sis, You've Got This, the Mindset
Mm.
Manual for Women Entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
because everything starts and stops in your mind. If you believe you can do it, you can. If you have doubt, then you won't. And so we really, really, want to work on that mindset piece. We also want to work on the money piece. A lot of us have, bad money scripts in our head. Money doesn't grow on trees. Money is the root of all evil. All these bad things that we've heard over the years about money. When money is not bad, money is great. Money allows you to do, so many things. It allows you to even bless other people. So necessarily if you like money or you make money that you have to be greedy.
Mm-hmm.
It is a tool to allow you to live your best life and help other people as you so desire. If you have a charitable heart, you can help so many people with it. So I really feel
Mm-hmm.
like we need to change those money scripts. And so that is the first piece that we start with. We start with the mindset. We the money mindset, success mindset, confidence, because a lot of us, I don't know if you've heard of this thing called the imposter syndrome.
Oh,
A
yes.
lot,
Mm-hmm.
right, and that is huge. So even if you're successful, if you're a professional career woman, you're successful on your job, you could still be like, well, at home, be like, wow, I can't even believe that, I'm sitting in the boardroom. I believe me? Like you, a lot of people are imposters. We're all, struggling with just, just trying to process how we're showing up in the world. And so mindset is a huge piece. So even before we work on figuring out what your sellable skill is, what solution you're going to provide that people would love to pay you for, that's our second piece. The first piece we always start with is mindset and confidence.
Mm. Now, you have an excellent blog. And as I mentioned, I wanted to take some points from the blog for us to dive deeper into. So, one that stood out to me, the title was Stop Talking Yourself Out of Action, which I think ties definitely into what you just mentioned about mindset. So, can we get deeper into that? And actually, the imposter syndrome that you mentioned, I actually just learned about that a few months ago, actually. And when I read it, I was like, wow. And I think we all have had moments where we get into that. And I think, especially when, as women, a lot of us wear a billion hats. And one thing that you mentioned that I thought was really important was for women that are at home with their children, and it is like one of the hardest jobs in the world. They're handling so many different positions that people are getting paid tons of money, in actual companies. As you mentioned, they're marketing, they're managing time, they're doing so many different things. And I just think when you have so many hats, I think it is easy to kind of fall into that imposter syndrome sometimes. Like, I can't believe, that I'm handling these things. Or it's even when some things are going well, like you kind of talk yourself out of it because there may be another element of your life that you're trying to work on. And it's just kind of hard to marry all these different elements of what you're working on. So I know you did mention imposter syndrome, but can you get a little deeper? Just because I love that topic about stop talking yourself out of action. Because I always say, I feel like a lot of people who are in situations where they may be unhappy, with their finances, or they may be unhappy with their job. I feel like a lot of times people have $1 million dreams that they're sitting on, but they have talked themselves out of it. As you mentioned, mindset is everything. I say that all the time. It's all about how you view things and what you think about yourself and what your self-worth is as well. Some people don't realize they're worth way more than that $40,000 a year job that they have, that they're unhappy and they can't even take a vacation or call off sick when they want to. So how would you go further into, just that average person that's sitting there, they're at a job that they don't like, to just how could they stop talking themselves out of action? How can they get themselves in a better mindset to move forward?
Well, that's just it. It's really working on mindset. It really
Mm-hmm.
is, so I write a weekly blog.
Okay.
Um, that I send out to people on my email list that is very motivational. I talk about real life experiences that I'm experiencing at the moment, and really just turn it around to motivational message to show them how, even though, me, it's just a constant, because we have so much negative self-talk in our minds. We
Mm-hmm.
really, really need to, when it happens, you can't stop it from happening, but when it does happen, you can stop it and switch it, right, and
Mm.
turn it into something positive. So in terms of, because I get ideas all the time, and I'm sure a lot of people do, but as soon as that business idea comes, sometimes you can be like, nah, it'll never work. It's that negative self-talk. Like immediately it could be $1 million idea that you have, and instead of taking action, you talk yourself right out of it because you got
Right.
fifty different reasons why you shouldn't do it. And a lot of it,
Mm.
a lot of it is based on fear. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
that fear is based on what people are going to think. And I think that is so, like, I hear it so much. And the thing is, I always tell people, I don't know, but what your religious status is, but I always say, they talked about Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And, if they talked about him, they're going to talk about you. They're going to talk about you whether you win. They're going to talk about you when you lose. They're just going to talk about you. And so you can't let people's opinions of you stop you because I think they say when you buy somebody's opinion, you buy their lifestyle. And there are a lot of
Mm.
people who don't want you to win. They don't want to see you succeed. They could be, your family members. Sometimes we call
Oh,
those
yeah.
people vampires. These are vampires because they are used to seeing you at a certain level and you might be at that
Mm-hmm.
same level with them. And so it's fearful for them to see you level up. right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it shines the light back on them and maybe their fears and their inability to level up. And so I think there's a lot of it's a fight. To be successful is a fight, and some people, have the muscle for it. Other people, don't necessarily have the will to get to the finish line. And I really, really want to help more women have that will, have that confidence to get to the finish line for themselves and for their families. But like I said, it always starts with the mindset, and catch yourself, with that negative self-talk that we all have. We all have that
Mm-hmm.
negative Nelly in our brain. If you can
Yes.
just, instead of talking yourself out of it, research it, look into it. Don't immediately, shoo it away. Say, hey, I got everything happens for a reason. You get messages all the time. And the worst part is getting an idea for a business or an idea of some action to take, and you decide not to do it. And then you turn around next month, 3 months, next year, and see somebody else that has done the exact same thing. And you're like, wow. You know what I mean? Like, I got that idea and I just didn't act on it because I was fearful before, because I didn't have confidence, because my self-esteem isn't where it needs to be. And so I
Mm-hmm.
always recommend, when we're working on mindset and confidence, it's so easy now to listen to podcasts like yours, listen to audio books, listen to, or read. If you are a book reader like I am, get some
Mm-hmm.
motivational books. One of the first books I read that changed my life was in my 20s when I was researching. It was Think and Grow Rich,
Mm.
a Black choice, actually. So there's two, the Napoleon Hill and the Dennis Kimbrough one. But that really just expanded my mind and it motivated. And we just have to constantly feed our minds to counteract that negative self-talk with positivity from, podcasts, audio books, positive TV programs, you can find them, and just books. We really have to work hard to consciously counteract that negative self-talk.
And anyone that listens to my show, they already know, like, I just eat up everything you just said, like, because I'm very big on self motivation, number one, self love, because I feel like we will talk ourselves out of anything and everything because we doubt ourselves or we doubt our potential. But I feel like that also ties back, because I'm huge on just telling people to love themselves. I feel like if you don't value your true worth, it's easier to just say, oh, well, I can't do that. Like, I'm not going to be able to make that happen. I can't speak in front of a ton of people. I can't start this business. I can't write that book. And another thing that you mentioned is family and friends. Me personally, I always say that depending on your lifestyle, your family and friends are really going to be numb anyway to some of your thoughts and your dreams, because, as you said, they're used to a particular you. And also, some of them, that's foreign language to them. Like, they're not in the world where, okay, they're going to go try and make six figures or things like that. And that's okay. It's just you have to be able to motivate yourself so that you don't allow that to stop you. And I think that is what stops a lot of people, because they haven't moved forward and said, okay, well, I'm just going to stop discussing this with so and so, or I'm just not going to really let, their opinion stop me, and it's easier said than done for some people. But you're right. I feel like it's all in your mindset and just realizing your potential. So some other things that I really picked on that I really enjoyed. So there was one blog that you had written, and it's entitled "The BS Before the Breakthrough." So can we dive into that? So what does that really stand for? What would you say is the BS before the breakthrough?
I probably wrote that blog a couple of years ago, so I'm not even sure.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do know is that right
Mm-hmm.
before you have a massive breakthrough, you're going to experience some resistance, and this
Mm-hmm.
resistance is going to show up, and it's going to your next step. It's going to cause you to question whether you should continue to move forward. It's going to be, I mean, it's something there just to stop you in your tracks. But I always say that resistance, when it shows up, celebrate, because that means
Mm.
that you are on the verge of a breakthrough, and it's just serving to see how bad you want it, how bad you want this, because success is not easy. It is a fight, as I mentioned before. And because if everything was easy, everybody would do it. Right. And so
Mm.
it is real resistance is going to show up. It could be, something in your life. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that, um, is related to your business or what you're trying to achieve. It could be some other life challenge. It could be a health challenge. It could be something in your family that happens that you just cannot believe the timing of, like, wow,
Mm,
this timing is just off. But believe me, that when that resistance shows up, you may not feel like celebrating, but I just want you to recognize it as for what it is. And if
mm,
you can get through it, push through it to the other side, it's going to be likely something wonderful, something that's going to push you closer to the dream that you're trying to achieve. And I just want to tell people, because a lot of times it will throw people off. And the thing that is so interesting to me is that as soon as you commit to something side or make the decision not to talk yourself out of something, as soon as you decide to move forward on your life path to make a change, it has happened so many times to me and to other people. I just feel like all of a sudden you start to see things that can help you along your way. At first, when you try to talk yourself out of it, like you said, sometimes it seems impossible. But when you make a decision in your head, it's like the universe conspires to help you make it happen. But
mm,
if you're wishy-washy about stuff, the universe can't even help you, like,
mm-hmm.
because you haven't even made a decision. But once you burn the bridge and say, you know what, if it's got to be, it's up to me, I'm moving forward. Next thing you know, you see all kind of help show up. You needed a virtual assistant, boom, somebody's on your timeline that just started a business. Or you needed some funding for this, boom, you got a lender that shows up just out of nowhere. It's almost like you have to decide non-negotiable about your goal, you will start to see everything to show up to support you on your path. But until you decide, if you are wishy-washy and you don't know, you doubting yourself, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't do it. This, and that, no, it can't happen because you
Mm.
have to be committed. So that's another thing that I wanted to share.
So I know, like you mentioned, like you had a point where you discovered what you were really good at besides being a mother. And as you mentioned, you like to mentor mothers to figure out what they have that is sellable. So what is the process you feel like for the average person? They want to work independently, they want to work on their own, they want to start a business. And some people, I feel like they have that gift right there. They already know, like, okay, I'm gonna do blah blah blah. It's already set out. So let's say, for example, they may come up as wishy washy, or for example, they may have different skills, or they just may be in a point where they know the end result. They know they want to have that successful business, but they may not be clear exactly which one of their skills may be marketable or bankable. So, what's the process, I guess you would say, for someone to just kind of decide from the beginning how can they make themselves sellable? What can they figure out about themselves that would actually be, lucrative?
All right. So in the Millionaire Motherpreneur Business Academy, the first step of it is called START. And start, we start off first, like I said, with the mindset piece, because we really need to establish that foundation, because we just touch on that every time. Anytime you feel in doubt, you need to go back to the confidence module, so that you can continue to move forward. Now, the second thing that we do is a questionnaire to try to figure out what is your sellable skill, what is your sellable solution, or your bankable skill, as you said, that people would love to pay you for. And we have a questionnaire that allows us to figure out, like, what is your thing. We want to figure out your profitable passion. What is the thing? Oftentimes it's something that you're doing for free for people,
Mm-hmm.
that they're asking you to do, and you just are taking it for granted because you just think that everybody, like, it's no big deal, like everybody can do this. We don't realize how unique our skill set is, because sometimes if it comes to us so easily, we just assume it comes easily to other people. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's that, sometimes it's the skill that you used to provide for your boss or your employer, that you can actually, and turn it into a consulting business or a coaching business for yourself. So we help, in the course, we help people claim their unique superpower. And then we also validate that. So let's say, you decide that, so my client I'm working with now, she has a resume business.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she's a recruiter. And
Okay.
in the course of her job, she reviews a ton of resumes, and so that would kind of make her a resume expert. She sees so many. She actually picks the resumes that she likes and actually interviews the people. And so she decided that, hey, maybe my skill is helping people with resumes. It's a problem that people have. People want to get jobs. We want to get them hired. We want to make sure their resume is as polished as possible. And so she is now a career consultant on the side. It's her side hustle that she, in addition, she's still working, but she's starting this career consulting business for people, doing resumes, helping them with interview skills, just helping prepare them to get hired. And those are
Mm-hmm.
skills that she's using on her job. So, like I said, a lot of times if you have a job, it's probably something on your job that you could do and provide as a sellable skill as in your own business. Or if you've been at home being a mom, like you said, we wear so many hats: event planning, project management, accountant, consultant, so many things that you do. And a lot of times consultant, people call you, can you do this, can you do this? You just take it for granted because it's no big deal, but really that's something that you can provide to people for money. So
Mm-hmm. Who do you say is your average client right now, and how do they normally find you?
it really is referrals, word of mouth, and online. So I get a lot of inquiries on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of inquiries on Facebook in my DM message, Facebook Messenger.
Mm-hmm.
And then also people that are referred by, other moms and other people that know what I do.
And where are you currently located?
I live right outside Washington, D.C. in Maryland.
Okay, okay. With the pandemic, do you feel that your business has picked up as far as more moms reaching out to you, or just people in general who are like, hey, my livelihood has been affected by the pandemic. I need to think of some different ideas. Has that picked up the amount of people that you work with right now? What's
Yeah.
taking place?
I receive a lot more inquiries because people want to work from home safely.
Mm-hmm.
Even though even people that have great jobs, their jobs are still stable. They're like, wow, I have a lot of fear about going into my office 8 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I would say yes, because people are wanting to be able to work from home. They want to be safe, and they also want to make enough income to continue to live their lifestyle. So they're just looking at ways to pivot.
What is your advice right now for someone who, obviously the pandemic has taken place and their job has just cause completely been hit? Because obviously we have a lot of people dealing being unemployed as well. And, they're thinking, oh, I really want to start a business, but I don't have the funds, as you mentioned, we will talk ourselves out of things, but let's say there's someone, they're currently unemployed and they're really scrambling, they want to be able to work independently, but they just don't know where to start. Like, what would be your suggestion for them? Because I think a lot of times with people starting businesses, they're unclear of like how much money they may need to start, or should they have a whole ton of money to invest? They're kind of scrambling and they don't know exactly where to start. What would be your advice for that person?
So my advice is that, the pandemic, of course, is, an awful time, a challenging time for so many. We've seen so many people lose loved ones. And so it really is a challenging time. But on the flip side, we have to look, this is more mindset work, is to try to find a silver lining in the pandemic time. And I read something the other day that it says, because of the pandemic and social distancing, we are spending an average of 9 hours more at home per week than we had been before. And it makes sense because, before, I know myself, I'd be, going to events, I'd be networking, I would, be at this meeting, this club, speaking here, and, going all over, traveling to conferences. And with the pandemic, all that kind of shut down. And so it's been a blessing to have, that much more time to be creative. And even
Mm,
people, when you're working jobs, we're not going out as much as we used to. So we're at home. So I would advise that instead of, spending those extra hours and that extra time at home on the couch watching television, it's really a time to be creative. It is a
yes.
perfect time to figure out pivot? What's your next best move? How can you level up? Because I mean, it really is a pause. We haven't completely paused, but it really is a time for pause. And I really would love to see more people just make the most of this time, come out better than this time. And I know it's a struggle because, we're dealing with, anxiety and stress. And I'm not saying some people are depressed in this time because there's a lot of uncertainty. But
Yes.
again, mindset. We have to, have a positive mindset. We can try to move forward. And I would just say, look at, what are you doing at your job that you could turn into a business? How can you be a consultant for, what you're doing at your job currently? Or if that opportunity isn't there, what do people ask you to do that you just
Mm-hmm.
effortlessly do for free? If
Mm-hmm.
people are calling you, asking you, can you look at this for me? Can you read this airplane for me? Can you, all the things that people just ask you to do, and it's no big deal to you. You just do it, right? That is,
Mm-hmm.
something that you can provide as a business.
Right.
And so I just think that there's so much opportunity at this time in the midst of, all the sorrow and uncertainty. We just have to be mentally tough. And know that we'll come out on the other side better, and just use this time. Don't let this time go to waste.
Mm.
Try to be better in this time, improve yourself so that, on the other side, when everything's good, you can, have a possible whole new career or business.
I love that. So, rounding out this episode, what would be the main takeaway? Let's say someone has tuned in, they've listened and they've taken in everything that you've said. So, you've lit the match for them, So, you've inspired them to go ahead and just be fearless and move forward and, start that business, take control of their career and their finances on their own. What would be the main takeaway, the lasting thing that you would want to, what's the lasting message, I guess you would, want to give out to that person that's listening?
I guess it would be the motto for my business, which is make yourself rich.
Mm.
Is, nobody else is going to help you be rich or have all the success that you need to have. We really have to take action ourselves. And a lot of times, nobody else is really going to, give you probably what you feel like you deserve. We have to go after those things. If you're motivated for more, you can profit from your own experience. We all have sellable skills. We all can be solution providers. We all have a business within us. And just work on your mindset, work on your confidence. Know that everybody struggles with it, and know that everybody has that negative voice. And the people that you see that have been successful, they are no better than you. They've just been able to persevere. They've been able to, get that mental toughness to be able to shout over that negative voice and move forward to live their best lives. And so I think the opportunity is available for everyone. Some of us, it may be a little tougher to get to than others, but we can all press through. And don't be afraid to reach out for help. Take a course, read a book,
Mm.
right? We only know what we know. We have to keep investing in our education and our growth, because without it, like I said, we just only are armed with the knowledge that we have right now. So we need to keep enhancing our knowledge, and be that, through some coaching or through some books or some personal development. You can continue to grow yourself so that you can grow your business, or just grow your mental capacity for mental toughness so that you can be confident and successful in life.
Okay, so what is your definition of a queen? That's something new that I have been adding into my segments. And now that we've reached the 1 year mark, that's something I'm definitely going to have at the end of each episode. So before we end everything, what is your definition of a queen?
A queen is every woman because we were all born for greatness.
Mm, yes, I love it. We're all destined for royalty. Thank you so much again. I love it. So, thank you so much. I want to make sure before we end everything, please give everyone all your contact information, how they can reach you, give them the link to your website, everything. Because I know there's some people who are going to gather some confidence after just listening to this, and I know they're going to want to reach out to you. So, give everyone all your contact information and also your social media handles.
So my website is AngelaGSolomon.com. That's G is in green and Solomon like the Bible, all O's. And I'm at Angela G. Solomon on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you just dropping some knowledge. Like I said, this is, very, I don't know the correct word. It's a very uncertain time, just to be transparent. But I feel like this is also a time where, as you mentioned, we all can take this to our advantage and, just take out the scariness of the whole, the fear of the pandemic. But as far as just following our dreams, we can definitely take that time and use it to our advantage and use the time to be on our side, actually, and not work against us. So, everyone, I always end out the show the same way to make sure you go love yourself. And as Miss Angela mentioned, you have the power to be rich. I mean, I feel like a lot of times we act like that's a negative thing to say, being rich or just really being wealthy. A lot of times we talk ourselves out of that whole idea and we won't even work towards it because we're afraid, or we think that we're not capable of achieving that, or we quite frankly think we're unworthy of having financial security. But you definitely are worthy of it. Please make sure you go love yourself. And whatever dreams that you do have, whatever endeavors you have, whether it's having a business and being fully independent, or whether it's sticking with your career, but just having that side business because you still want to have those extra pockets of security. If that's the stage that you're at right now, just know that you have the capability to make that happen, and don't let anyone talk you out of it. And as we mentioned, it's all in your mindset, but just remember that you are a winner and you can achieve everything that your heart sets out to achieve. So thank you again, Miss Angela G. Solomon, and that's the Millionaire Motherpreneur. And she gave you guys all her contact information. So make sure you guys go reach out to her. Thank you again, Miss Angela.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Q Chat podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Queen's Arrogance LLC. Our company website is www.goqueen.com.